Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Stephen Sacker. The people of Catalonia in northeast Spain are about to vote in a local election which has become a de facto poll on independence. The outcome could plunge Spain and Europe into a prolonged period of constitutional uncertainty. My guest is Raül Romeva, a leader of the pro-independence coalition in that regional poll. At a time when the challenges of economic stagnation and mass migration are tying up Europe in knots, why the obsession with secession? Raül Romeva, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you for inviting us.
I'm sure you would agree that right now Europe faces massive challenges on a continental scale, and yet here you sit, a man seemingly obsessed with a local parochial issue in Catalonia. Why?
Well, that's putting it a bit, let's say, controversial. I wouldn't say it that way. What I'm obsessed about, we are obsessed about, is about democracy. And that's also a problem right now in Europe as such. The question is that it's not a local issue in the sense that is one part that has become crazy and suddenly they want to be something different. The real truth is that for decades the situation has been commanded in a very, let's say, politically respectful way until a certain moment where the situation has become very tense. Why? Because when democratically the people in Catalonia has been repeatedly voting on some issues, and the response coming from the central government, which means the government of Madrid, has been always trying to impede that democratic voice to be heard, then the people in Catalonia get frustrated. And this is something that has happened in the last years and decades.
But how so you say your premise is it's all about democracy, giving the people a voice. But what you have done and what you are doing in this poll that you have in the region at the end of the month is you're hijacking what is basically an election for a regional assembly and saying to the people of Catalonia, no, forget about the regional assembly, let's make it a de facto referendum on independence. And that's not actually fair, is it? Because many local people probably want to vote on the local economy, they want to vote on social issues, and you're saying, no, you can't do that, you've got to vote on independence.
No, you can do. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, these are, let's say, a normal election for some, but the problem is that we tried for years to make a referendum, which means that we wanted to know democratically what the people think about that issue, which is an important one.
Sure, but the Madrid courts have decided, along with the government in Madrid, that that is illegal.
Exactly. Well, that's the main problem.
Well, you've got to accept the law, unless you're an anarchist.
Well, no, I'm not. But anyway, in Europe, we have two principles that are in equal level, which is the rule of law and democracy. And when laws are not fulfilling the rights and the needs of the people, and there is a huge majority of people, I don't know if it's majority yet, we'll know, but it's a huge amount of people demonstrating on the streets year after year. Let me tell you something. When you have a country where you have 1.5 million or 2 million of people every year demonstrating peacefully, massively and peacefully out of 7.5 million, I think that I would be asking myself, why is this happening? And that's exactly what we are trying to explain to the rest of Spain and to Europe.
But are you a man of principle or are you not? Because right now you sit with me as frankly, the de facto leader of the coalition in favour of independence.
Yes.
And your bedfellows in this movement are, for example, Artur Mas, the well-known leader of the regional government, who is a centre-right politician who's very friendly with big business. You are a former Green, who've spent your political career fighting for the environment.
And I will still be doing.
Right, so you don't agree at all with him. You don't agree with the nationalist right wing, which is also part of your coalition. What on earth is this coalition all about?
Well, because it has to do with tools. It has to do with capabilities. It has to do with institutional capabilities in order to do things that you cannot do now. In order to give offers, to give responses to the people's demand, you need two things. normative capacity, which means the possibility of making laws that need to be done in order to respond.
Well, hang on a minute. That's just hang on. That's political jargon.
Exactly.
The bottom line is you're sitting there in a movement for independence,
exactly,
where half the people like you are leftists who are anti-austerity, who want a much bigger state, and they want a much more left-of-centre politics.
Sure.
And the other half of your group are all rightists who believe in austerity,
no, but that
who believe in capitalism, which you don't.
Well, I mean, that it should be nuanced. I mean,
well, frankly, if you win, the Catalonia that you want to be independent is going to be a complete mess.
Why? On the contrary.
Because all of you people in this movement don't agree with each other.
No, on the contrary, for two reasons. First one, this is a very temporary coalition. I mean, sometimes in history, you need to agree with somebody with the one you differed on in order to find something that is better for both and if is better for everybody, the common good. You need to agree with an opponent in order to give something good for the common. That's what we've done. Second, this is a transitorial period. This is a transition that, according to us, it should be as short as possible, which means that next elections, we will face a normal elections where you will have ideologies confronting each other, which is fine. That's exactly the goal we have on that strategy.
Do you fear that you've somehow missed the moment of maximum opportunity here, because the polls do suggest that the support for independence in Catalonia is actually going down, and some polls now suggest that the opponents of independence may have a small lead.
I think that's not right. I mean, it depends on the polls you look. That's right. The problem is, you know, the polls are polls. I mean, polls are very much often used in one sense or the other, depending on who is using them. That's one thing. But on the second thing, the best poll we can have is to let the people vote. That's what we've been asking for years. I mean, we wanted to know what the people think about this. If the people really want this, I think the people has the right to be heard. If the people mostly say, no, that's not what we don't want, end of story. The problem is that there is a central government who has been deaf and is a bit even demophobic. And that's what worries me very much. Because even if you don't agree with independence as a destiny, as a fate, you can agree that this needs to be solved in a democratic way. And that makes a lot of people who is in favor of not, let's say, secession or independence, but is in favor of voting because this needs to be asked to the people.
All right. Well,
democracy to me is the more important.
You keep telling me about the importance of democracy. Let's get real. Let's talk about the degree to which yours, in the end, is fantasy politics. Because you know as well as I do that the Spanish Constitution is quite clear. It talks about the indissoluble unity of the Spanish nation, and you simply cannot legally contemplate getting independence without the say-so of Madrid.